The instrument known as the guitar has a moderate learning curve in the beginning. I remember starting out on the electric and feeling just how heavy and cumbersome that solid body, heavy electric instrument was. It was very heavy when they put it around my neck at the Guitar Center. They threw it around my neck with a strap I had never played, and I remember thinking, is this what the guitar is all about? The guitar is all about having this thing pulling your neck all the way down. And maybe if I sat down with an acoustic, I would have had a completely different first impression on it. And that's sort of the first point is there's so many different sizes and shapes that there's no doubt that you can get something that you get on with, because from 3/4 size to parlor guitars to jumbos to big square shoulder dreadnoughts and everything in between, there's so many sizes and shapes that in that sense what you start with is going to put an impression on you. But at the same time, if you do a little research first, knowing your physical frame and everything that goes along with the style you might want to play, there is so many options out there. So here's the next point, is that the beginning chords may be a challenge, because on the guitar many chords you play will involve multiple fingers even at first. Generally at least two, to start out with two or three. And that may prove a challenge because your fingers have never made these motions before. We as guitar players have done it so many times, but these shapes have never been made with a beginner. This muscle memory has never been formed. So these beginner chords can prove a pretty big challenge at the very beginning. And of course, these chords are what are foundational to our songs. So that's something to think about. And these guitar chords, while I say they often employ multiple fingers, you have to keep in mind that when I started out playing on the left-handed guitar recently, that was unorthodox. The shapes, you really felt the stretch, but when you're teaching each of your hands to have separate tasks and you're using the appropriate hands, persevere with it and you will actually be able to naturally put these shapes down over time, I promise you. Okay. And things get more complex as you decide which direction you want to go into. So as I say, starting out with chords might be a challenge, but that's the simple stuff. As you pick a direction to go into, that's where the complexity comes in, because you start delving deeper and deeper into a certain style and start unraveling things. So the guitar isn't that hard to learn a few chords, but that gets your foot in the door. It gets hard when you decide which direction you want to go into, and you start getting more and more complex, more and more challenging. So this video had really two main points. The idea of, is it difficult? And then what advice, tips, what secret information, knowledge I have now would I give to you, knowing what I know now, to make the most out of not having unnecessary difficulties. So let's speak about that. Well, the first is mastering these fundamental skills, such as your chords, tapping your foot, your timing, the basics of just strumming downstrokes, sitting in the guitar properly, sitting with it properly, sitting with the guitar with a neck profile that you can get on with and appreciate, having it sitting on your leg properly, wearing the strap properly, all the foundational skills. So in other words, not skipping to your favorite song. You might have a certain song in mind and you just want to jump right into it, whereas these foundational skills will allow you to eventually build up to your favorite song in time. You might find your favorite song is more approachable than you think, but in other words, don't skip to it when you're just starting out. And one thing I like about this instrument is the guitar allows you to keep to yourself. You might feel like a loner at times, but just embrace that. It's not an instrument where you need to be like I was at first on Facebook with all these communities and all these senseless groups. You don't need that. You can completely navigate this journey and play completely by yourself. But you do this simultaneously while observing others with deeper knowledge. There's a guy who's a luthier I just started following, and he's been playing for many, many years. And the guy's got a lot of knowledge, and I just enjoy listening to the different things he has to say about performing repairs, doing comparisons. So I'm saying be a loner, but you also observe those with deeper knowledge than you have, and you do this constantly. And while I'm enjoying his sort of flat picking bluegrass style, I also in the back of my mind know what kind of playing interests me. I know what kind of stuff I want to play. You have to know what kind of playing is of interest to you. Okay? And I'm interested in a lot. I'm interested in fingerstyle. I'm interested in blues. I got a really cool new song I'm going to unveil soon. Some good stuff coming soon. I'm interested in soloing. I'm interested in my songs, the songs that I like. You guys know. And also, like during the Christmas time when I was doing all the chord melody arrangements, I like that kind of playing. There are all these specialized directions that one can take. You could go down this route on the guitar, you could go down that route, and have a dramatically different experience. There's certain players that are very technically advanced, and I just find their playing boring and senseless, to be frank with you. So you have to make choices in that regard. Make a choice. It shouldn't be hard to determine which avenue you want to go on in regards to this instrument. Then you delve deeply into learning and applying the stuff. Okay, so how to specifically learn? Well, like what I was doing with this new song that I'm going to unveil soon. Piecing it together, slowing down the performance of the teacher I'm studying play it. And each day you kind of get a little advancement on it, and then that carries over to the next day. So I would say for each practice session, try to have one little breakthrough where you say, oh, that's a little bit clearer now. And you'll take that into the next day and into the next, or whenever you sit down again. And next thing you know, you'll have a brand new song, I promise you. But you have to sit down and apply. I'm telling you how to specifically learn, because you have to know who you don't want to be. I know I don't want to be John Mayer because he's about as boring as an old shoe. John Mayer, Joe Satriani, even Tommy Emmanuel, just 1,000 notes per minute of nonsense. And are they technically great? Yeah, but this is not an interesting era for guitar players. It hasn't been for a long time. Or musicians in general. So know who you don't want to be. And while I do that, while I'm studying what I do want, I'm okay with being a loner on this instrument. Trust me, it's an asset to be a loner when you're playing, because you spend that time isolating, studying, and soaking in all of this knowledge pertaining to music. You become obsessed, and you really begin being completely influenced. You can't help but get better, because it just becomes infectious in your mind the way you keep going deeper and deeper through this field of music. As a loner, and on the guitar allows you to do that. This instrument in particular allows you to do that. So what I do is I narrow in on what I do like, but I'm still studying different techniques and different styles, still keeping an open mind. Even these guys I say bore me to tears. Perhaps there's still something to be learned from them, but will I ever click with their songs? No. But I'm still studying these different styles and ways of playing, because your technique is everything as a musician. the way you sit, the way your hand is arched, playing on the very tips of your fingers, playing the right position on the fretboard, everything. Technique is your whole body, posture, everything. You could even argue technique is in the mind. So, and once you feel you have made some advancements on the instrument with one particular style, such as blues, fingerpicking, feel you've made those advancements before you start going to do 100 other things. Say, okay, I'm getting somewhere with this. I can feel that day to day I'm closer and closer to playing the song the way I want. Get those kind of progress under your belt before moving on to the next challenge. You have to actually feel you've made an achievement with something, even if it's minute, it'll add up. So and you'll know when you've done it too. You don't have to kid yourself. And that involves generally sitting down, slowing down a new piece of material, and trying to play it exactly like whoever you're emulating. I'm not talking about improvising. I'm talking about, is the guitar difficult to learn? Okay, and the second half of this video, this half, was all about how to make it better. Okay, because like I said at the beginning, the guitar has what I would call a moderate learning curve. Because you might say, oh, the electric guitar was very cumbersome around your neck. Even now when I pick up that SG, the long scale, the heavy guitar, it's heavy. It's the heaviest guitar I own. The J50 in its own right in the case is a heck of a package as well. That's a heavy one as well. But nothing compares to that feeling of them putting that 2017 SG around my neck for the first time. And it's a great guitar. It's not, a Les Paul, I would imagine, be a lot heavier. But that was an experience, and that's what I mean by learning curve. Cumbersome, heavy, but don't forget there's many, many guitars out there, but you have to start. In other words, the beginning doesn't have to be very hard if you have this sort of mentality like I have. No matter what, completely obsessed on this journey. But the thing that I love about learning the guitar the most, and this music in general, is just the depth of it, because it never ends. I'll never run out of things to talk about. I'll never run out of content. Like YouTube keeps recommending this guy. I've watched a couple of his videos on the game Skyrim, and he just keeps making a new short about, did you know this in Skyrim? Did you know this in Skyrim when you do this and you do this? And it's all well put together stuff, but to me it makes me think, how much can you say about Skyrim after all? Are you going to live in that time period forever? And imagine that guy can make shorts about that forever, and people are going to love it. So imagine music. That's just one little video game. But imagine music, the depth to music compared to a game, even an RPG game. Music is much deeper. And much like an RPG, there's different avenues you take, you choose. Do I want to be this? Do I want to be this? Because you can't feasibly be everything. Much like an RPG game, you need to specialize to get the most out of it. And I'm not saying be closed-minded. I mentioned there's a lot of musicians that I don't care for that are very popular. And I'm not just trying to go against the grain here. Okay? I'm just simply saying, know who you don't want to be like. I don't know that anyone ever mentions that on YouTube or in videos. Know the direction that you want to stray from. Because the beginning doesn't have to be that hard. But you have to have this sort of mind that I'm telling you about. You can't give someone this kind of mind. I think that's why a lot of people struggle, because it has to almost come to you naturally. That's why I picked up these instruments having not a musical bone in my whole family outside of myself. No influences outside of the time where I organically picked it up. And it's only now, almost 31 years of age, I can tell you. Just not that long ago, I'm starting to come to terms with the depth of it. And it always goes deeper. It's never ending. So that's my advice for playing the guitar and my answer to a very popular question. It's a big question, and this was a video I thought about quite a bit. There's some exciting stuff coming, a very important unboxing video on a vintage instrument. I'm not going to say more than that. Probably Wednesday night or Thursday night is the soonest I can do it. So I'll see you guys there. It's coming soon. Goodbye.